Today we will be talking about the life cycle of a component. Every component goes through 3 stages: mounting, update and unmounting. We will be looking the mount phase first. So let us create our new file mount.js, and using cc we will add our class component. Mounting is the initial phase, the moment when the component will be inserted in the DOM, when it starts to exist on the browser screen. Here are 4 methods that are executed. So the first one is constructor. It is to set the initial state value. So we will first write our constructor and add a state property inside that is counter. We will set the initial value of counter to 0. After doing that, we will use the getDerivedStateFromProps method. The 4 methods in the mounting phase are executed in the following order that we are going to talk about. So it will be static getDerivedStateFromProps. It allows the component to update its state through a change of props. It also adds complexity to our component, and overall we do not use it much. The argument used by this method are props and state. So here we set the counter to this.props.initial value. The third method which we are going to talk about in the mount phase is the render method. It is a mandatory method when we are creating a class component. It must examine this.props and this.state and return either a React element, a portal, a string, a number, a boolean, or the null. After the render method, we are going to write our original componentDidMount method, and inside that we are just going to add a console.log statement which says the component is rendered. So we are done with our console.log statement, and we have done one mistake here, that is we have to place the componentDidMount after the render method. So we will just correct that and place the closing bracket in the correct place, and we will go ahead and import the mount.js component into our app.js component. Mounting is the component's first glimpse of existence. At this phase, the component, which consists of the code and React internals, is inserted into the DOM. If we save the file, we get our expected output. Next, we will see the updating phase. This is the phase where the component grows. So first, we are going to edit the static getDerivedStateFromProps, as we have already defined that, and we will need that here also in the update phase. Next, we are going to add shouldComponentUpdate method and return a true inside that. We will also have a render method inside it that we already have, and at the end we will add a getSnapshotBeforeUpdate. It is called before the most recently rendered output is committed. It allows the component to grab information from the DOM before it is potentially changed. And here the argument are previous props and previous state. So we need to change the state, that is bring some change into our component. Next, we have our componentDidUpdate method, which has 3 arguments: previous props, previous state, and the snapshot. Now we are going to create a button which will initialize the change in our component, and we will see the updation process. The component overwrites some prop changes, or when the internal state overrides a change, the component enters the updating phase. Should component update determines whether the method in the sequence are executed or not, whether it should be rendered again or not. So now we are going to add our on click inside our button, and we will create a new function that will initialize the change. So we will refer it to as this dot change state, and now we will define the change state function as we do. In the change state function, we are going to change the value of counter from its initial value 0 to 1 when we click the button. This will initiate a change and our updation will start. So we have done, and I think we are done with our updating process. So now let us go ahead and save the file, and you can see that we get the output. The first one is, so let me just refresh it. So the component is rendered. As we click on the button, the component has been updated. The unmounting phase is where the component dies. That is, it is going to be removed from the DOM. It only has one method, that is component will unmount. Here we will not be seeing any output of that because technically our component is not being unmounted. Let us add some console.log statements to each of our method so that we can understand the order in which they are being executed. We also have error handling lifecycle, which occurs when the code doesn't run, but we will talk about that in another video. So let us add another console.log in our render method also, which says render. And now if we see the output, so first we have our mounting method, and then we can see the updation process. So that's it for today's video.